So, I only received one confirmation for the for attending this hangout. So if no one shows up in a few minutes, I will just do a little bit of a quick Twine tutorial, and then we will wrap it up. We'll see. Checking to see if anyone has posted. Oh, this may be short. Tonight may be a bust.
I think I may have finally figured this out.
Ah, yes. Wonderful.
I was on a different page under the event and I couldn't figure any of this out. This is the first time that I've had it scheduled as an event instead of just simply a Google Hangout.
Yeah, I've found that to be a vexing problem ever since I started using Google Hangout. There's, if you schedule one in advance, it sends out a link to a event page for it that
Yeah.
doesn't offer people any way to get into the Hangout directly.
Yeah. I only found this link by going back into the event and finding at the bottom, if you want to join the live chat and are here on the watch page, follow this link.
I posted that.
Yeah, maybe this one will work. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm Megan.
So before that, were you basically seeing the stream but having no way to actually join it? Yeah.
Yeah.
My apologies for the minutes you spent watching me just kind of look at the screen and check a few things while waiting to see if you or anyone else managed to actually join. So.
Yeah, it was only about like 2 or 3 minutes until I finally figured it out.
Good.
I was like, maybe you'll answer my question, because there was like a little Q&A screen off to the side. But I don't know if you can access that now or after it.
Oh, there it is. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It
was like, hello, Dr. Eklund.
I just opened it, and yes, I can hear you. I just opened the sidebar. The thing is, unless I actually have that open, it doesn't notify me when there's a new question.
Oh.
That's... Yeah, Google Hangout is a little bit vexed, but you know, you can do simultaneous live streaming video, and that's something you just can't do with the go-to software.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely much more useful for me when I do a Let's Play video, and when we actually get a significant number of people attending, it can be an opportunity to actually have some face-to-face time with your classmates, which is something you really don't get otherwise.
Definitely.
Are you knitting?
Excuse me?
Sorry, I was wondering if first I thought that I thought that maybe that was a circular needle for knitting with. It looks like that's a cable, right? It's actually a wire, right?
Yeah, I'm getting headphones on. It always works better with headphones.
Right.
But yeah, when we first started the program, I started doing Google Hangouts with my classmates. But what I would do is I would just create the Google Hangout and then share it on the Facebook page. I never actually created an event.
Yeah, I keep waiting because Google has kind of tweaked things several times since I started using Google Hangout for them to kind of get the Hangouts on air, which means that there's a YouTube archive of it, are really geared toward people who are true celebrities, where you can invite like your entire fandom to watch, and then just have your guests actually in the Hangout. I keep getting them to come up with a way to make it a little more friendly for kind of small group video chat.
Oh yeah.
But we'll see. It's all a matter of what Ma Google decides to do.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Oh, okay. Since no one else is here, and I do have a question for you, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So in week 1, and I think you just graded this like today, actually. In week 1, I did the branching story on Twine, not on my thesis. I did it on something else. And I was wondering if this week, for this week's assignment, if I could just continue that.
Yeah, you can. Okay, you can work with that world.
Hmm.
But for this week's assignment, I want branching dialogue, meaning one focused conversation.
Yeah.
So you can keep working with your game concept that you worked on for week one,
Okay.
but I don't want you directly building onto the twine you submitted for assignment one. Does that make sense?
So don't build onto the previous twine?
Right, because what I want for this assignment is a twine that is entirely a single conversation,
Okay.
like
I can
the
do that.
branching dialogue in a Mass Effect or Dragon Age game.
Hmm. Okay.
Uh,
So, like, create an entirely new twine. It can be based off of the content of the previous twine, but have it on just one singular conversation and at least 15 branching segments that lead to three separate endings.
right. So yeah, you have to at least 15 what I call branch points, and that's where the player gets to choose between at least two different things to say. And you can have one ending or two or three. The goal is to kind of contain the number of endings. And I do apologize for you only getting assignment one back today. You're one of the last ones to get those back. It's been a bit busy.
No, it's all good because I haven't started on the assignment yet because I wanted to ask you about it first. I sent the email like at 11:15.
So
So, well, now you don't have to bother with it.
I will. If I think of anything that might be helpful, I'll send that in reply. Because
Okay.
sometimes, and likewise, if you think of any follow-up questions after the hangout is over, then feel free to drop me another email. So,
Yeah. That
um,
that's quite nice to know too because it's very hard working with my thesis, which is a live action feature. It, trying to convert that to game and not being able to fully convert back because if I do three branching the branching dialogue with three endings,
right.
then I'm going to want to use one of those inside my thesis because something new is usually better for me.
Well, and here's the thing. Sometimes that can actually be a good thing. I've had people say that doing branching dialogue for a television or film thesis project allow them to figure out a better way a scene could go. On the other hand, it is one of the most basic differences between the media is that interactive element. And if you're talking about something that could take the story in a different direction, then it may not be time to distract yourself with that kind of possibility.
Yeah.
Because getting a complete draft of your thesis done is very important. That's
Yes.
something you really need by the end of next month.
Okay,
Uh,
so we're finishing up our thesis by next month.
yeah,
Nice.
and Mark McCain who's the instructor for the storyboarding and animation class. He'll adjust other things a little bit depending on where people are with their thesis. So the further along you can get your thesis by the end of this class, the further ahead you'll be and the less stress it'll be for you to get a finished draft by the end of next month. But yeah, that's basically where it is.
It's actually quite funny because I'm taking a 2-month break after this class because my father got involuntarily, honorably discharged from the military, which is a nicer way of putting that they fired him. So,
Yeah,
yeah, we're
yeah.
currently
I was
going
going to say
through the
that
moving
doesn't sound
process
like
and everything.
a fun thing.
Yeah, so we're right now going through the moving process and everything, and he gets practically a whole month off next month to take off leave, and I don't know if I'm going to have Wi-Fi or not because I'm on his orders, And so it's like I practically got to go wherever he goes. So next month, I don't know if we're going to have internet, and April is the month that we're moving if we move. So I'm taking those 2 months off so I don't have to stress.
That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. It'll also give you a chance, because you don't need to have internet access to type.
Nope.
To work on your script and be more ready to begin revision. Basically, if you have time, you can go ahead and start the revision process, and then you'll need to be prepared to make revisions that adapt to feedback you get in months 9, 10, and 11, because month 9 is the editing class, where you'll get a lot of feedback on like formatting errors and little, grammatical and typographical errors that slip by, that kind of thing. Then 10 and 11 is portfolio, where you will go through like a major set of content notes and revision. That's very challenging but very important, because in addition to any improvements it makes to your script, you have to be able to accept and apply major feedback from other people. That's part of the business.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got some browser windows open. I think it's making my computer laggy here, so I'm going to close some things. Okay. This used to be there we go. I'll keep this window open in case anyone else posts on the event page. This computer was state-of-the-art about 4 years ago.
Are we also going to be working on editing the other portfolio components as well?
That's secondary. You may have some revisions to make there, but the focus is on your major thesis project.
Okay.
And by and large, you just need to have those things and have them in a complete state. I'm not saying that's absolutely all there is to it, but that you definitely shouldn't be focusing on those.
Okay. So, for example, a major thing that happened in the last class before I had to write up to page 75 is that he had us write out the flashcards, and when I was working on the flashcards, I realized I don't have enough in my thesis to be able to write a thesis, to write a full script. So I had to go back and literally restructure my whole thesis. And I ended up rewriting all 45 pages that I had submitted 2 months ago.
Right, okay.
So I went straight from page 1 to page 75 in one class. And I know that I'm probably gonna have to go back to my other things like my synopsis and my treatment and all of that, and possibly tweak those to reflect my new thesis. It's not a new concept. It's
okay. So in terms of that, we figured out some time ago that requiring people for portfolio to make sure that all of their portfolio components were updated to match the current version of their thesis was causing me to have problems finding the time to make necessary revisions to their thesis. So you do want, for your own kind of, writing practice and your own kind of marketability, having samples, and to go back and make those updates. But you will not need to have all of those items revised to match the current state of your thesis for portfolio.
Okay.
Yeah. Something to think about with those portfolio items is where and when can they, and potentially other assignments from throughout the program, be useful as writing samples in context when an excerpt from a screenplay would not be helpful. That's something that this class potentially is valuable for if you have an opportunity to do some writing in a in the context of games, if it's not actually writing for a game, if it's like, for example, having a chance to do games reviews, or if it's other kind of digital media related writing, like writing about, then a sample from a game design document, or if it's something that involves some very lightweight scripting, a Twine might actually be a better writing sample than a bit of screenplay.
I've thoroughly enjoyed the Twine program, by the way.
I love it. There are some headaches with it every month because it's very different, and some people have a hard time. Plus, the program itself, sometimes, depending on people's setup on their computer, it varies from computer to computer. It can be a little bit fidgety. People are always able to make it work, but they sometimes have some stumbles first. And that's partially because it is open source, so it's not, you don't have a company whose profit margin is derived from making sure people can do all the most simple stuff without having problems. You've got people who are more concerned with making sure that it is continuing to grow, and sometimes a bug slips in when there's a new round of revisions. That can happen with anything, but it happens more sometimes with open source programs.
I've noticed with mine that if I create a new project, because I have 2 versions of the assignment that I submitted,
Okay.
If I close one and open up the other and then close it and try to open back up the first one, sometimes it likes to say something to the effect that the story is no longer there. So I have to go back to the second one, open it, and because it's practically exactly the same, I just save it as the first one's name again.
Yeah.
So is there any way to keep it from doing that? Because it only does it half of the time, so it's like I can open up both and both will show up.
That's one of those quirks.
Okay.
You could probably report that as a bug if you find the forums for Twine. And it is a fact that the Windows build of Twine has fewer quirks than the Mac build does.
Where do I get the Windows build? Because I do have a Sony Vaio that I could possibly work with.
If you go to twinery.org, the website's linked to in that lesson, but that lesson's expired at this point. I think I relinked to it in this week's lessons on branching dialogue. You can download the installer for the Mac or Windows builds, and there's also now a Twine web client, but even though it's out of beta, it's still more for casual use because you can only export a Twine HTML file from it. You can't save that TWS file outside your browser. So you don't want to use the web client. But I will. I'm going to go ahead and put that up on the watch page.
It finally came back up. I have no clue what just happened, but it's like my screen froze up. My screen froze up.
Oh wow! Okay, so did you miss?
The next thing that I heard was, "I'm gonna put it up on the page to share it."
So
sorry.
That's okay. I just posted the web address twinery.org to the event page or the watch page for this, and it's just twinery.org, and you can download the PC or Mac installer there. And there is also now a Twine web client. That one shows up as Twine 2.0 something as opposed to 1.4.2.
Okay. Okay.
And But the web client, I don't recommend, because there isn't a good way to actually get a TWS file. Basically, it's designed you create your Twine in the web client, which looks like the Twine app, and then you just save it as an HTML. So saving your source from the web client, last time I checked, wasn't actually possible.
Mm.
And that source is very important. Not only, say for example, if you're me and you're trying to grade everyone's Twine assignments, I need to see what's going on under the hood, but also can be very important in terms of troubleshooting your own work.
Okay. I guess another question that I have for Twine is that since working with the program and being a very avid writer in all sorts of genres, I'd really like to get into writing with Twine, but the problem is how do I get it to stay online for readers?
Okay.
Like,
there are a number of different good ways to do this.
okay.
The page is down, but they're in the process of reorganizing. There was a website called Twine Hub that hosted all sorts of Twines in HTML format. There also are some of the interactive fiction. If you search for interactive fiction, you'll find that there are a lot of other tools beyond Twine, but most of them involve writing in a scripting language. There are some very easy to use scripting languages. It's not like writing a computer application in C++, but they don't work visually the way Twine does. But some of those websites will host interactive fiction as well. But there are two more ways that are both really good ways to make your Twine accessible. First is if you have a website, if you can upload your Twine, your HTML, when you build the Twine, if you can upload it to your website, and then once you've uploaded it as a file, it's going to be somewhere on the website, and you should get a link directly from whatever you're using to measure. So like if you have a WordPress website, you can upload the file and create a link that is then where that HTML file is online. And then you can share the link with anyone. There is an even easier way to share Twines. And that is if you have Dropbox. Are you familiar with Dropbox?
Okay, let me go ahead and explain what I've done already.
Okay.
I have the Twine. I do have my own website, but it's a publicly free version where I can, they give me the template and I can modify it all I want.
Right.
I don't have the premium.
Okay.
I didn't build it from scratch.
Right.
And they do have a free app within the website where you can upload files.
Right.
And I tried that, and, well, it's on there, but it downloads the file, then immediately pops it up into a web page.
Oh.
But
so
it downloads
basically,
it first as the HTML.
Okay. That's a quirk of the way that's set up.
Okay.
What service are you using?
It's Wix.com, W-I-X.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will look. I don't know how to make that work the way you want it to in Wix. I will look that up and see if I can get an answer for you.
Okay.
Another thing you can do to work around that problem, if you get a Dropbox or other, and this should work with Google Drive as well.
Okay.
You can upload an HTML file to Dropbox or Google Drive and then create a link to that file. And if it's an HTML file you're linking to, then the default behavior should be to open that HTML file in the browser, as opposed to what you're experiencing with Wix, where it's trying to download the file and then open it from the person's computer.
Okay.
Because then what you can do, right? You can upload it to Dropbox or to Google Drive, create the link to share that file, that HTML file with, and post that link on your Wix website.
Okay.
That's
right.
one workaround to it. You can even make that really, you can even fancy that up. You should be able with Wix, even with the free version, to be able to basically put up an image or icon that works as a link, like a button.
Yeah. Yes, I can.
So then you can have your icon or button for your Twine, possibly, if you want to, like a small piece of art that relates to the story in some way, and that can be what then people click on it and it opens the Twine for them.
Yeah, I just haven't tried the Dropbox or the Google Drive. I have a Google Drive. I do not have a Dropbox. I think I did try uploading it to a Google Drive once, and it came up all as code.
Okay.
The HTML.
I have only.
Go ahead.
I've only tried the linking thing with Dropbox. I have not tried it with Google Drive.
Okay.
Like I said, knock on wood. I will. I'll see if I can come with some answers for you about Wix. There may be an easier way to do this, and I will check and see about Google Drive as well. But I do know from experience that if you get a Dropbox account and upload the file, and then use the that's the click option in Dropbox to share as a link, then that does work.
Okay.
But since you already have Google Drive, if you could get it to work either in Wix directly or via Google Drive, that'd be better.
Yeah. Most definitely.
Also, something that's nice. It used to be. I remember working on this for my website that Twine required images to be separately saved in a local directory, which meant if you had a Twine with images in it and you uploaded it, you had to make sure the images were uploaded to the same directory as the Twine file. But the newer versions of Twine will incorporate the images you add to the Twine into the HTML. So with the current version of Twine, if you add any images to your Twine by actually adding them in Twine, you don't have to worry about uploading the image files separately or having links to images. It can actually add that all in. It's I think it's a bit of HTML5 that does that. So as long as you get that file uploaded and have it somewhere where it will correctly open the file, then you'll be golden.
Okay. By directory, what do you mean?
Okay. It used to be that if I wanted Twine to show an image, say for example like a kind of like cover image with my Twine, that I would have to have that image saved in the same folder that the Twine HTML file was in. But they've made Twine smarter since then.
Okay.
Now, if you import an image into Twine, which you can do, then it's going to save the image with the HTML file, and you just upload the HTML file wherever, and it'll have the image there.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, very, very amateur digital writer type person.
Frankly, it was a completely unnecessary explanation because I just explained a problem that no longer exists.
Well, there are different definitions for directory, so
right.
Depending on what you're doing and what programs you're using, so I just didn't know which definition you're referring
I'm in
to.
file folder on your computer or on for somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Using the word directory goes back to my days of using DOS. Yeah.
I'm definitely not a programmer, but I do have a friend who can program.
Good.
But I don't think that he could figure out Twine. He knows how to make websites from scratch. That's about it.
I've back in the day I made some websites using Dreamweaver, which was a computer-based website design tool, but I never actually coded one from HTML from the ground up.
Yeah, that's what he did. In one night, he got the front page of a demo author's page done for me in just
Awesome.
one night, plus pictures and text and little blog post chunks, and I was just like, dude, you need to go into business for this. He's created his own app and is preparing it to show off to companies, and it's like,
that's really cool.
Impressive.
Well, and we all have our kind of inclinations in terms of talents, and then if you practice, you will
Yes.
polish that talent. It's not quite one or the other. In fact, I think the latest kind of neuroscience on it is that aptitude is basically to do with the rate at which you learn a specific kind of skill, as opposed to this kind of almost mythological idea of some people being gifted and not having to even try, they just do it. People who seem to just do it, it's a whole lot of practice on top usually of some natural aptitude. The aptitude is part of what made the practice effective.
Mhm.
I could practice for 100 years and I'd never be an Olympic sprinter.
Yeah.
But my brother works out in Silicon Valley, so I see the way that his gifts are different than mine, but it's very much a matter of work. It's always work. That's just a matter of finding work that you find rewarding.
Yeah, and it's good that everybody has aptitude for different things, because if everybody could do the same thing the same way, then people would have jobs that they didn't want or like.
Yeah.
So that person over there who can program really well, I'm happy for them, because that means I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Anybody who says, oh my gosh, I'm so jealous of you being a writer, or oh my gosh, I'm so jealous of you for, this, that, or the other, I say, well, what do you do well? Oh, I do this well. Well, good for you. That means there's not going to be 1 billion people
Yeah.
doing this one thing, and majority of them don't want to do it.
Exactly. So, well, Megan, was there anything else you wanted to talk about or ask about?
Nope, I think that's all my questions about Twine. Yeah, that's just about it.
Okay.
I'm very excited to get started on this assignment.
Well, Twine can be so much fun. If you don't hit like a wall and just bang your head against it, I'm very much because I see that happen, and it's not like a person's fault. It's kind of this mix of quirks of the software sometimes, with the fact that for some people just anything the Twine is uncomfortably close to programming, and that's just where they are. But Twine can be a whole lot of fun.
I've explored this other program that also does interactive stories, and it's called Inklewriter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that one seems more difficult than Twine. Twine is pretty self-explanatory.
I considered Inklewriter. In fact, I actually have one of the videos for this class. It's the archive's still on there. I looked at YouTube, and for me, one of the biggest things with Twine versus Inklewriter is you have complete control over your own creative product with Twine. You have the source code, you have the final product. It is completely public domain and open source. So yeah, Inkle Writer looks prettier. That's kind of my feeling about it. They have a very slick web app, and the people who put out who's put out Inkle Writer, they've done some very nice interactive game book style games, especially for iOS, for iPhone and iPad. But yeah, I think Twine's a better option overall.
Well, one feature of Inkle Writer that I really like the looks of is that if I wrote my writing project big enough in Inkle Writer, you can then have it published on Amazon.
Right.
So
that's one of the pluses. Of course, to do that, you have to go through them, which is okay. It just means that you've got one pipeline. You might want to take a look. If you I can always include this in notes that I send out to people.
okay.
Choice Script. There's a Choice of Games is the company that did the branching narrative games that I linked to in one of the lessons in week 1. And they have a simple scripting language, and it is a scripting language, but it's pretty easy to use. And if you create a book, you can pitch it to them as one of their featured books. But even if it's not, as long as it meets certain criteria, they will include it and give it some promotion as a partner book. Now, it has to be at least a certain size. If they have to look at it and go, okay, this isn't, horribly problematic in one of a number of different ways, whether it's riddled with grammar errors or, say, hideously offensive. But that's another way that you can potentially get a branching narrative game, basically a choose-your-own-adventure style game out there. And I know I don't know him I haven't had coffee with him, but I have spoken via email with the head of Choice of Games, and they are very much a kind of writer-driven company. That's what they've kind of made their bones on so far.
Okay, I will most definitely look into that one then. Choice Script, is that what you called it?
Choice Script, and the company is Choice of Games because many of their games are titled Choice of Broadsides is a free one they have, which is set in the Age of Sail. Choice of let's see, what was it? Choice of the Dragon is another one where you play as a dragon, make decisions about where to hide your hoard and what to do with the goblins who come and start worshiping you, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And not all their titles are titled Choice of. There's one where I think, what's it titled? Yeti Parole Officer. You're a parole officer to cryptozoological, to mythological and fictitious creatures that are trying to integrate into modern society. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. There's some other companies out there that have done some pretty good digital game books, is what they're sometimes called. Game books being a way of referring to the Choose Your Own Adventure style books.
Yeah.
But Choice of has done a much broader range of content. I could think of one, Tin Man, where most of what they've done has been basically D&D stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Stuff, which is cool, but it's that they've kind of fleshed out that niche, whereas Choice of Games, you got more oddball titles.
Okay. Thank you so much for all this information.
You're welcome. I really do sometimes regret not having in many cases, you folks who are my students wouldn't be my students if you had to be in a regular classroom, but I regret not having classroom time with you, because the direct contact is great. It's different from just sending an email or a message on FSO.
Yes, most definitely, because at the very least with these Google Hangouts, and I do treat these Google Hangouts as like class time,
Mm-hmm.
you talk, and then as you talk or as the instructor talks, more questions come up.
Right.
And as you hear other feedback, that feedback from your peers could spur on some of your own questions.
Yeah.
Or might make you remember, oh, hey, here's a tip. I've done that so many times in my bachelor's program. It's like I've had students like come to me after class. It's like, hey, what was that thing that you said during class? Can you tell me more about it? And even one time I had an instructor like, can you tell me about that program that you talked about during class? I'd like to be able to tell it to my future students. And it's like, yeah, sure. And that's happened with some of my other friends too, the ones who speak up during class. Anyways.
Yeah, and
so,
trying to kind of recreate that online is a challenge. I'm not an insurmountable challenge, but Hangouts or other live sessions like this can help. And I'm always looking at my discussions going, I really wish there were better ways to get kind of that continued back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But that can be difficult with the pressure of discussions being graded. And ungraded discussions, people tend not to weigh in because they've got graded work to do.
Yeah.
So.
But sorry for keeping you so long with just one student. Thank you very much for all the questions you answered and all the tips.
Well, and this other people in the class are likely to have had some of the same questions. So if they tune in for the video archive, that'll help them.
Yes.
And I will, again, knock on wood because I can be rather forgetful. I'll see if I can figure out a solution to your Twine problem in Wix that doesn't involve having to go to a third party. And I will send out some links to the entire class along with the archive of this when Google has processed and put up on YouTube. That sometimes takes a little while, so I'll probably send that link out tomorrow.
Alrighty. Sounds good.
Take it easy, Megan. My best to you and the whole of your family.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it gets hectic, then it slows down, then it gets hectic, then it slows down, and then it's a waiting game.
Yeah. Well, there's always something. Tonight, my 4-year-old did not want to go to sleep, and I was like, what time is it? I just got him to sleep. I was like, okay, I've got 7 minutes to get this Hangout live. So, well, unless you have any last-minute questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop broadcasting, and then you can, quit out whenever you're ready.
Nope, all good.
Okay.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye, everybody.
Bye.